Do a quick uh, lesson and talk about the end times. All right, and what does the Bible tell us about the end times? And I'm actually going to go to Matthew chapter 24. All right, so Jesus he talks about the end times. All right, he's actually asked like, what are the signs? What should we look for? Right, so Jesus, you know, yeah. So Jesus, he actually tells us. So I'm just going to get started on Matthew chapter 24. All right, Matthew chapter 24. Then Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the building of the temple. It's like, oh, the building of the temple. And Jesus said to them, do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be overthrown. That shall not be thrown down. So pretty much it's like, hey, look at the building. And Jesus says, surely I tell you, like not Uh, surely left here upon not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. Like, hey, it's gonna come down, right? So the apostle shows him the building, and he says, hey, this building's gonna fall down eventually, right? So that's what he says. Now Jesus actually gets persecuted for saying this. You know, they twist it into what he threatened to tear down this building, like so that's pretty much what they turn it into. Is like, hey, he said that he's gonna tear this building down, right? The temple, the holy temple. You know, that's blasphemous. How can somebody? They just turned it completely around, right? The Sadducees, the Pharisees, they turned it around, right? And they persecuted from for that. Like, hey, he's a blasphemer. He said that he's willing to tear the building down and this and that, and yeah. So, all right. So here we go. Verse 3. Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So, first off, the part about the building, what Jesus meant was, hey, this building is, well, actually, it is going to collapse because eventually Roman, burns it down, right? The Roman Empire, they tear it down. So that happens. How's it going? If you have any questions, especially about the end times, hey, feel free to ask. So somebody asked him, like, what are the signs? Like, what signs should we look for? Now, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? The end of the age. What age is he talking about? He's going to talk about the church age. What's the end of the church? Like, when are you coming back? So Jesus is leaving and he's coming back. All right. Has Jesus came back yet? No, he has not came back yet. All right. That is what us Christians are waiting for. So in the time being, accept Jesus Christ in your heart. All right. Accept Jesus Christ. Hey, we're waiting for Jesus to come back. All right. And Jesus answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you. So first and foremost, when Jesus leaves, while he's gone, don't let nobody deceive you. That's the first thing he says. Don't let nobody deceive you. Meaning there will be a lot of deceivers out there. Now in today's age, we have YouTube, we have social media, we have so many platforms, so many people can get on here and deceive. All right. So take heed that no one deceives you. That's why it's important to know your word. So the first step, make sure nobody deceives you. All right. First and foremost, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will be deceived many. All right, a lot of people are gonna say, hey, I'm the Christ. Hey, follow me, I'm the Christ. And will deceive many, and many people will believe it. All right, first and foremost, many people will believe it. So that's a sign right there. Deception. We gotta be careful. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. So before I get to that part, just know like, hey, we go to church. Hey, we follow, pastors and ministers and everybody, but always be aware not to be deceived. That's why it's important that you read your word for your own good, for your own good. Like you have to know the signs. You have to know. All right. You have to. Here we go. For many, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. So you're gonna hear about the wars. All right, you're gonna hear a lot about wars. Hey, there's literally been a war like my whole lifetime. I'm 34 years old. Actually, there wasn't a war. Actually, there was. 90s, it was early Iraq, and then it went some peacetime, and then 2001, we know what happened, 9/11. All right, so there's rumors of war. See that you are not troubled. So yes, you're gonna hear about wars, but it says, "Do not be troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Do not be troubled. This is gonna happen. We had the pandemic. All right, there's gonna be so much trouble. Like there's so much. It's just gonna add up. All right, it says, "Do not." All these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famine, pestilence, earthquakes, in various places. All right, natural disasters. There will be natural disasters. All right, so that's one of the big ones. So you see a lot of earthquakes, especially famines. You see famines like a nation being like just being wiped out, lack of food, lack of supply, whatever. Like, sorry, my siblings are texting me. Um, like that is one of the signs. All right. Then they will. Here we go. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famine, pestilence, earthquake in various places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows. This is the beginning. All right. This will be the beginning. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. You will be hated. If you're a Christian, you will be hated for Jesus' name's sake. So that's another sign. Hey, are Christians hated today? Hey, man, there's a lot of hate towards Christians. Like, hey, y'all not following the worldly views. There's LGBT, they hate us. Like, oh, we're this and that. You know what? We don't hate nobody. All right, we don't hate nobody. God tells us to love one another, and hey, love one another. And man, there's just so much going on. It says, so you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. So eventually, people they're gonna turn on the Christians. They're gonna turn on people that believe in Jesus. Right? That's eventually what's gonna happen. So that's another sign. End times. That's one of the signs. And then many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. People will betray one another, hate one another. Hey, is that common today? Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. Man, that is huge. All right? False prophets will deceive many. Like I said, we have YouTube today, we have social media, and it says here, many will be offended, will betray one another, and will hate one another. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. So people will hate one another, deceive one another, and false prophets will come out like and deceive many. Is that happening today? We have social media out there. Like it's easy to become a prophet these days. Apparently, like there you go. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. So it's gonna be a lot lawlessness. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. All right. He who endures to the end shall be saved. So this is actually talking about after Jesus comes back. All right. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all of the world as a witness to all the nations, and then to the end will come. All right. So, but he who endures to the end shall be saved, because lawlessness will abound. All right. So let me get something straight here. You will be deceived by many. You will hear wars, rumors of wars. See, don't be troubled. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, earthquakes in various places. All right, here we go. What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? All right, here we go. We're gonna go to 15, the tribulation. All right. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken uh, by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place. All right, that's talking about the Antichrist standing in the holy place. The Antichrist will, come into the temple. Now remember, the temple is not built yet. All right, there's a lot of you look up the news or whatever, like you see like they want to build a new temple. All right, the temple that Jesus said that was going to get destroyed. Hey, they're trying to rebuild it. Now it has not been rebuilt yet. They're working on it. They're starting on it. There's a lot of talk. So before the Antichrist, that building has to be built. So one sign I would say to look for in our generation as we live today is the temple in Israel to be built. All right, look for that. Stay up to date on that. All right, is the temple being built? Why? Because the Antichrist will sit in that temple. He will deceive many and will sit on that temple. So that is huge. All right, that's huge to remember. Uh, it says here, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken, the Daniel prophet standing in the holy place, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is in housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. It's pretty much, it's pretty much too late. All right. So it says pretty much flee. If the Antichrist is in the temple, flee. Like your best bet is to flee. And let him who is in the field not go back to his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on Sabbath, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor ever shall be. The worst tribulation is going to happen, like I said, when the Antichrist is sitting in that temple. It says, flee, like just flee. The Antichrist sits in that temple, flee. So just keep in mind, first, the temple has to be built. It's not built yet. And then number two, who sits in that temple and says, I am God? Whoever sits in that temple and says, I am God, it says here, just flee. All right. Now, this might happen in our generation. It might happen in the next generation. Hey, just stay up to date on it. All right. Like I said, the main thing to do here is accept Christ, get saved, so you don't go through these things. Make the rapture. You get raptured out of here, you don't have to worry about that. All right. The Antichrist, him sitting in the temple, just having to flee. But just remember, the Antichrist sits in the temple, just flee. If we're still here, just flee. All right. Like, hey, it's about to be complete lawlessness. All right. So that is the prophecy. And that's from Jesus. Jesus says this. And pray that here we go. For then there will be a great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh will be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Then if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. People will say, hey, the Christ is over here, the Christ is over there. Don't believe it. When the Christ comes, you will know. For false Christs and false prophets will rise and show great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. Hey, people with high authority will have signs and wonders. They're going to be doing supernatural stuff. So you will see supernatural stuff. All right. And it says here, the great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you beforehand. Therefore, if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. Hey, people are going to be saying, the Christ is over there, the Christ is over here. Do not believe it. The Christ, you're going to see him coming from the heaven. All right? You're going to see him. Like, don't believe what people say. That's pretty much what it's saying. There's going to be a huge deception. Do not believe what people are saying. Hey, the Christ is here. The Christ is over there. We found the Christ. We found him. Do not believe it. Therefore, if they start saying to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes to the west, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Hey, the same way you see lightning, the same way you're going to see the Son of Man be. So there's not going to need to be like, oh, look, he's over here, he's over there. The way you see lightning, that's the way that's the way the Son of Man will be revealed. Like, oh yeah, that's definitely the Son of Man. All right, there'll be no question. For wherever this carcass is, there the eagles will be gathered together. All right. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the power of heaven will be shaken. The power of heaven will be shaken. All right. So, like I said, that's why it's important to be raptured. all right, accept Christ, hey, get raptured with the church. Who is the church? Anyone who believes in Jesus Christ. All right. Anybody who accepts Jesus Christ, who accepts the free gift of salvation. All right. You want to be raptured, you will be part of the church. It says here, the stars will fall from heaven, and the power of heaven will be shaken. Then the signs of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So, a quick spoiler, this is actually how the Bible ends. All right. So, Jesus is telling us ahead of time. Now, in the book of Revelation, that is how the Bible ends. Jesus comes back, sets his throne. Hey, we're going to rule, and the angels are with them. And amen. That's how the Bible ends. And Jesus right here, he's telling us this in the book of Matthew. How you doing? Hey, good morning. All right, this is the book of Matthew, and he's telling us like how will the end times be. He's giving you a sneak peek of Revelation. All right, Jesus himself is giving you a sneak peek of Revelation. All right, now Revelation. So right now, what we just read, let's go to the end of the Bible. How does the Bible end? Jesus literally just told us, "Hey, this is how it's gonna end." Now we haven't been there, so here we go. Uh, I Jesus have sent my angel to testify. That's the ending. And behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me to give to everyone according to his work. I am the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning of the end, the first and the last. Let me see, that's the ending. Behold. Let me see here. I'm looking for New Jerusalem. All right. So he's talking about New Jerusalem because when Jesus comes back, so remember, Jesus raptures us. He raptures the church. Tribulation happens. And then Jesus comes back, and like enough tribulation, enough lawlessness, enough. He sets his throne. Hey, we're going to rule now, and evil is gone. You know what I mean? Jesus is here. Where is he going to set up? Where is he going to set up camp? New Jerusalem, right? Which talks about here in Revelation, New Jerusalem. Then one of the seven angels who had seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." And he carried me away in the spirit of the great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her light was the most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Also, she had a great and high wall with 12 gates and 12 angels. So it's describing New Jerusalem. All right. So the book of Revelation, that will be chapter 20, verse 9. So it talks about New Jerusalem. Um, so first it talks about like Jesus coming back, and then it talks about New Jerusalem. It gives you a really good imagery of what to expect. All right. It says high walls, clear as crystal. It says here, precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. She had a great and high wall with 12 gates, 12 angels at the gates, names written on them, which are the names of the 12 tribes of children of Israel. All right. So yeah, so Jesus here talks about the book of Revelation. All right, Jesus coming back. So hey, it's important to know these things. Like it's important to know the events that are going to happen. So you knowing, hey, this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, then this gonna happen, you won't be troubled. It's like, oh, that's supposed to happen. Jesus told us, don't be troubled, because these things have to happen. All right. So we're like, oh man, it's almost the end of times. As a Christian, you're like, yeah, I mean, it's prophesied, it's on here. And then from there, it's like, just make sure you are saved, make sure your family's saved. Man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Make sure your family is saved. Make sure your grandparents are saved. Make sure your aunt, uncle, you want your family to be saved. First and foremost, you want them to be saved. Your brothers, sister, cousins, that's huge, man. You want them saved. All right. I know a lot of people like preach to a lot of other people outside, but most importantly, make sure your family is saved. Make sure they know about this. Make sure they know about these events, so they know and they consider like, man, I don't like this world is gonna get bad. Like, yeah. So the important thing is to get saved. All right. First and foremost. Um, So yeah, so that's the end times. Anybody got a question? Anything? All right. So the events. Hey, rumors of war, deception. There's gonna be a lot of deception. People deceiving one another. Like I said, we have social media these days. It's very easy to deceive one another. All you gotta do is post something that's not even correct, and people believe it. All right, it's that people will believe it. Um, False prophets. Hey, it's very easy to for false prophecy these days. It's extremely easy. All you gotta do is get a camera and start saying a bunch of stuff, and people will believe it. People will believe it, and it's like, oh my god, and that's why like I just read the word. I'm like, hey, I'm not doing prophecies. I'm not doing any of that. Hey, I'm just gonna read the word and make sure that we all know the word, and that's it. And I tell my family, like, hey, this is gonna happen. This is the end times. Make sure you are saved. Like, hey, prepare because Jesus is coming back. And like it says here, how do you know when Jesus comes back? It says, do not believe when people say he's over here, he's over there. We found Jesus. Hey, we found Jesus on social media. No, the way you see lightning in the sky is the way you're gonna see Jesus. All right, that's the way Jesus will reveal himself. All right. So if anybody got any questions, anything, hey, I'll be on here for another few minutes. All right. I kind of thank you very much. Oh my God. All right. If anybody got any questions, anything, I am here. Man, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being on. It's cranberry. All right. If anybody got any questions, anything, I am here. I'll be on here for another few more minutes. Thank you very much. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will darken and the moon will give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the power of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a great sound of trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the door. Well, surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. Jesus' words will never pass away. This word will never be passed away. Man, that is huge. That is huge. That is huge. All right. Thank you very much.